So I've been living in Finland for more than 2.5 years now. Time really does fly because originally our plan was to stay here for 5 years. And we're about halfway through, and to be honest, I don't know if I'll be ready to go back to the States in another 2.5 years. No moika! Hey there, if we've never met, my name is Shirley and I am a Chinese American living in Finland with my husband, who is Finnish, and our 2 kids. In late 2023, our family packed up from the US and moved to Finland. At the time, we sold most of our belongings along with our house and 2 cars, and I also quit my job. So as you can imagine, this was a huge move for all of us. And if you want to hear the entire backstory, I have a video on that and I'll leave it in a corner here for you to watch after this one. I'll divide this video up into different sections and I will leave the timestamps below so you can skip ahead if you like. The first topic we're going to cover is language. Luckily for me, a lot of Finns in general, and especially here in southern Finland, speak English. Whenever somebody speaks to me in Finnish and I can't fully understand, I usually just resort to, sorry, do you speak English? And about 90 to 95% of the time, people say yes. So that could be the reason why I haven't been able to fully pick up Finnish. The Finnish language is difficult to learn actually, and I think a lot of foreigners would agree with me. But I am slowly adapting and I am committed to learn as much Finnish as I can. Speaking of language learning, a lot of people get stuck learning a language such as Finnish when learning just from textbooks alone, which is why I like to recommend Italki. Italki is an online language learning platform that offers personalized one-on-one lessons with native speaking teachers, so you can improve your listening and speaking skills by having real conversations and receive real-time feedback and guidance from language experts. For a language such as Finnish, that is so important because the Finnish you learn from textbooks is not how people speak in everyday settings. And honestly, having a native teacher guide you just takes some of that pressure off. It makes the whole learning process a little bit more manageable and a lot more fun.
The very formal way to ask is to say, puhutteko te englantia? But a more everyday way to ask this is, puhutko englantia?
Puhutko englantia. You also drop the teko as well, so it's puhutko englantia. Okay.
Exactly.
Awesome. I'm going to be using that a whole bunch. Italki offers an affordable and flexible way to learn a new language. You only pay per lesson, which means the lessons completely fit your budget and your schedule. And with over 150 languages offered, you can immerse yourself in a wide variety of languages and cultures without having to travel overseas. If you are learning a new language or just want to brush up on your language skills, click the link below in my description. The first 50 people to use my code Finlandia26 will get $5 off when you spend $10 or more on your first lesson. So be sure to use the code Finlandia26 at checkout. What I found interesting about the Finnish language is that a lot of people in-talk. So when they're talking, for instance, and they need to breathe, sometimes they will continue talking and breathe at the same time. That's something I've never done before, and I've caught myself doing that several times. Of course, it's not going to be a full sentence that you'll be speaking when you're inhaling, but maybe you're just making a sound like yes, like okay, and stuff like that. But in Finnish, so you'll be like, yo, yo. Yo means like yes, okay, I see. So I've caught myself doing that a couple times. And then 2 other sounds that I've started to make, one of them being oho. So you can use that in a lot of different ways. You can be surprised or disgusted, or like oops. Instead of oops, you can say oho. So oho is definitely a part of my vocabulary now. And whenever my kids trip or fall or knock something over, I go oho. And this next sound, because I have 2 kids, I've learned rather quickly, and it's kukkuu. So instead of peekaboo, you say kukkuu. Like, you know, you'll play games with somebody and you go kukkuu. The next section we'll be talking about is weather. That's probably one of the first things you think about, is how do you survive a Finnish winter? Finland is known to have very dark and very long winters. The winters here can last up to 6 months, and the amount of daylight gets shorter and shorter as we approach the winter solstice, which takes place during the second half of December. So the darkest day of the year, you will probably see sunrise at 9:30, and then the sun will go back down around 3. So you are stuck in darkness for a very, very long time. I myself definitely struggled a little bit during my first winter here. It was just very cold. It was, I think, one of the coldest winters Finland has experienced in the last 10 or 15 years or something, and I got to experience my first full Finnish winter during that season. So that was a little bit brutal. My second winter was definitely better than my first. So I would like to believe that I'm getting more and more used to the long and dark winters here in Finland. But speaking of nature and weather in general, I do need to get myself outside more, especially during the winter months. As cold as it gets here in Finland in the winter, Finns still make the best of it and enjoy it as much as they can. There's so many different winter sports and a lot of them you can do for free. So that is something I want to get more into. I am terrible at all winter sports. I don't know how to ice skate. I don't know how to ski. Cross-country skiing looks easier, but I really think I need to build up some endurance and muscle strength for me to do that well. I'm a little bit more comfortable now swimming in open seas and open lakes. This is not something that I like to do. I like to swim, but I prefer to swim in a swimming pool where I can clearly see what's in the pool and touch the bottom if I need to. One thing that did surprise me about nature here in Finland is that you see foxes like crossing the road in front of your car or like jumping in between apartment buildings. I haven't been able to get a good video of it, but every time I'm like, oh my gosh, is that a fox? Their fur is so red that at first you're like, is that a cat? Is that a dog? Why is it on its own? And then you realize, oh, it's a fox. All right, next topic, I'm just gonna breeze through because I have whole videos regarding the different things in Finnish homes that surprise me, so you can check out this video here if you like, but I'll just touch upon a few real quick. Hands down, the number one thing that I appreciate about living in Finland is that you can drink the tap water. When I lived out in California, in the Bay Area, tap water was safe to drink, yet our home in New York at the time, the water came from a really, really dirty well, and the water itself was also very hard, so we did not drink the tap water and we just went out and lugged water from the grocery store to our home, and we got used to it. But since moving to Finland, I have been drinking a lot more water because you just turn on the tap and the cold side gets so cold naturally that I love the tap water here. And whenever I come back from traveling overseas where I cannot drink some of the water, it just reminds me how lucky we are here in Finland to be able to drink the tap water. Another thing that I'm totally used to here is that we don't have a bathtub and we have a big floor drain in the middle of the bathroom. I'm also really used to using the floor squeegee. It's basically just a squeegee that you use for windows, except like 2-3 times the size. And you just squeegee the floor after a shower and you just push all the water into the large floor drain here. It's just so efficient and a little bit satisfying as well. I'm no longer surprised by saunas inside apartments and inside homes. We have one ourselves, and my in-laws live in an apartment building and they have a private sauna inside their bathroom. So that no longer surprises me. Now moving on over to the kitchen, I am pretty good at using a cheese slicer now. When I first met my husband and we came to Finland to visit, he would slice the cheese for me because I was just not used to using a cheese slicer that size, and now I'm pretty good at using it. Of course, Finnish kitchens are also known for their drying racks directly above the sink, and I think more countries should adopt that. I also love that I sort my garbage now. There's like 6 different bins in our garbage area. There's plastic, there's garbage, there's glass, metal, cardboard, soft paper, and bio waste, which sounds weird, but bio waste is just like compost. So I definitely separate my trash now, and it's just second nature to me where everything goes. We have different bins in the kitchen and I just throw them in different bins. Because the winters here are so long, we use the outside for refrigeration during the colder months. And my favorite part about that is whenever I make hard-boiled eggs during the winter, I just would dump out the boiling water, pour some cold water in it, and just place it outside. And it'll cool down in like 10 minutes. And I don't need to use any ice for it because it's cold outside, and sometimes there's also snow. A couple things in this section that I want to get more used to, one of them being turning off the water valve. So there are 2 little knobs in the kitchen and in the bathroom. The bathroom one turns off the water to the washing machine, and then the one in the kitchen turns off the water to the dishwasher. And they're in very easy places for you to reach. The one in the kitchen is right below the faucet knob, so it's very easy to turn on and off, and I've since started using that to turn off the water to our dishwasher. However, I have not been keeping up with turning off the washing machine, and that's something I need to get more used to. I've been trying to do it more often, but a lot of times I just forget to turn it back on when I have to use it, so that annoys me a lot and I just don't turn it off. But I will need to get on that because I think insurance will not cover any water damage if they find out that you don't turn off the knob after using the water. So that's something I definitely need to work on in the near future. Another thing I want to try doing more here in our house is cleaning with a squeegee. So there is a YouTuber from Finland. Her name is Voileipäkakku, I think. I'll leave her channel here or here, but she pretty much does free cleanings for people, and in most of her videos, she cleans with a squeegee. She will scrub down a countertop or the stove and then use a small squeegee to just squeegee it clean. And it just looks so effortless, so quick, and that's something I definitely want to try. I even bought a squeegee. I just need to use it. And another thing I want to do more in our home is to light candles during the winter time. Now that our kids are a little bit older, they know about candle and fire safety. So people in Finland, when it gets very dark out during the winter time, they would have dinner by the candlelight. So either when they're eating dinner or when they have friends over, they would light candles to brighten up the mood. And I purchased some candles and candle holders. I have yet to use them on a regular basis, but that's something I want to do more of this winter. Next topic, we'll be talking about food. So in Finland, there's not a large variety of food because Finland historically has been a very, very poor country, although it doesn't feel poor nowadays. So that's why there's not a lot of traditional recipes that are very extravagant. There's a lot of fish, a lot of potatoes, sometimes there's stews and there's like pancakes and things, but there's not a large variety of different types of food here in Finland. I definitely miss the different varieties that I was able to get my hands on back in New York. So that's something I had to get used to here. But I am definitely, for sure, 1000% used to eating sausages here. Sausages are everywhere. You warm up sausages for the sauna. You have sausages for kids' parties. When a new store opens up, they will have a sausage stand outside giving out free sausages. And during street fairs, there's definitely going to be sausage stands too. So there's a lot of sausages to be eaten here in Finland. And I guess I'm getting used to that too. Another thing that I was surprised by, but I am now used to, is that there is a whole lot of mayonnaise to be eaten here. So there's a burger chain here called Hesburger, and the owner actually came up with a really nice recipe for mayo. And in order to sell the mayo or deliver the mayo to a customer, he came up with a restaurant chain that sells burgers. So he made burgers as an afterthought after making his mayos. And when you go to Hesburger, there's a whole bunch of different mayos you can choose from. They also have really nice vegan options as well. And when you go to McDonald's, they try to copy it and like have their own different types of mayos, as well as KFC here. When you go to KFCs here in Finland, they also give you different mayo options. And when you have pizzas here, a lot of pizza joints will also sell you mayos to dip the crust into. And if you have kebab and things like that, they also put mayo on top of that too. So there's just a lot of mayo. Another thing I was surprised by, I don't know if this is a Swedish thing or a Finnish thing, but because we're so close to Sweden, and especially the town that I live in, which is Turku, we're on the southwest tip of Finland, so we are really close to Sweden. I don't know what the official name for this is, but I call it sandwiches disguised as cakes. At parties and gatherings and stuff like that, you might see a big round cake, or at least from afar, it looks like cake, but once you get up close, you'll notice that the toppings on top of the cake are more savory than sweet. You'll see lettuce and radishes, and we have a little visitor here. I'm filming in her room and she wants to know what I'm doing here, so she will be with us for the rest of the video. So as I was saying, it's basically a sandwich that's shaped like a cake. So just imagine like a sandwich with filling inside, like I don't know, salmon or cucumber or whatever. It's like different layers of bread. Sorry, I forgot to hold my mic in the right hand. But from afar, it looks like cake, and then up close, it's actually a sandwich. One thing I do want to do more of and get used to is to eat more Xylitol tablets. So Xylitol was first discovered in Turku, I think. Somebody mentioned that in the comments. So after you eat, your mouth gets what's called an acid attack, and Xylitol prevents the acid from harming your teeth. So kids here in preschool and daycare and probably even in school will all eat a piece of Xylitol tablet after every meal. And that's something that we need to get used to doing at home. We don't do that nearly as much as we should, but when they're in daycare, they... But when they're in daycare, they get a Xylitol tablet after every meal. Next up is fashion related. So since moving to Finland, I have fallen in love with secondhand shopping or flea market shopping. Here in Finland, there are a lot of flea markets or secondhand shops, and I visit them on a regular basis. But one thing that I did have to get used to is that there's not a lot of dryers here in Finland. They do exist, but not everybody has one. So sometimes the clothes might smell at secondhand shops, like when you leave your clothes in the washer for too long without airing it, and it gets that like musty smell. So I almost always smell my clothes from secondhand shops before I buy them. It sounds weird, but you have to do that because it's very hard to get that musty smell out of like clothes that were not dry properly. And something else I had to get used to was because I own a dryer here in our house, so I have to keep that in mind when I'm going secondhand shopping, is that the person who owned this item previously might not have had a dryer. So if I throw this into the dryer, it very well might shrink just a little bit. Another place that I've started to shop at, which might not be good for my wallet, is Marimekko. So Marimekko is a very famous and beloved brand here in Finland, and probably, I want to say maybe 95% of women here in Finland own at least one Marimekko item. They are known for their pattern and printmaking, and they make clothes as well as homeware and things like that. So I've since started to shop there. It appears I have been going to the two extremes. I shop at thrift stores and then at Marimekko. So I used to think their designs are just okay and maybe even tacky looking, but now I have grown to love them. I don't know if it's just because this season's clothes or color just suits my taste, but I've started to shop there way more than I have when I first moved here. Shh, don't tell my husband. And I have to say that I am not as afraid of the cold and the wet days anymore. There's a saying here in Finland that there's no bad weather, only bad clothes. So you just have to get the clothes that suits the weather. And because I have kids, we go out pretty regularly when it's raining and snowing, and we just make sure we bundle up and wear the right clothes. But one thing I do want to do more of is wearing Icelandic sweaters as the outer layer. I guess I'm just in the mindset of wearing sweaters as the inside layer and then putting a jacket over it. But a lot of people here in Finland wear the Icelandic sweaters as the outside layer. So that's something I want to do more of. New location, which ties into the next topic, traffic and driving around. After moving out of the US, I had to get used to the metric system, which I gotta say I am more used to now than the imperial system, I guess. The 24-hour clock I am more used to. After I set my phone and my watch to finish time, it automatically switched to a 24-hour clock. So now I am forced to run on a 24-hour clock, and I'm getting more and more used to it by the day. In terms of driving around, we use parking discs here in Finland, so I don't know if that system will work in the US. I think people are just more honest here in Finland. I hate to say it or put it that way, but it's pretty much self-reliant. You set the time that you park your car on the parking disc, and I just imagine people trying to get around that and maybe cheat a little bit. If we're to be honest. So using a parking disc here is something I'm used to. Most of the time when you go grocery shopping even, you have to set your parking disc. And if you forget to do it and somebody comes around and checks, the fine for a parking ticket is like 60 euros. So it's no joke. And in terms of driving over the speed limit or under the speed limit, because there's so few people in Finland, 5.5 million to be exact, that it probably doesn't make sense for cops just to sit on the side of the road and catch people that are speeding. So instead they have speeding cameras here, and there's two different types. There's a box version, which is outdated and a little bit old, and my husband said that most of them don't work anymore. I don't want to test that myself, so I will just mark his word on that. And then the newer versions are like these cylinder looking like cameras, and they are situated on the side of the road. If they catch you speeding, I think it will flash and take a picture of your car and your license plate. So they'll have a sign warning you that there's a traffic camera ahead, and most of the time you have to slow down when you see it. And yeah, it just kind of gives you a warning, and then once you're used to where everything is, you pretty much know to slow down when you're there. Or just, don't drive too fast. Driving around here in Finland is not too different from the States, besides the fact that you have to get used to some signage here that's used across the EU. The one sign that I had a little bit of trouble understanding fully is the inverted triangle. So there are not a ton of stop signs here in Finland, but what they do have is the inverted triangle. If you are driving up to another road and you have an inverted triangle, that means that the traffic coming from your right has right of way. If you don't have a triangle when you come to a stop, you have right of way if you are on the right of incoming traffic. It's hard to explain. You can look it up. It took me a while to grasp it, and sometimes I still am not used to it, so something I'm still working on for sure. So this, I didn't really know what to call it, so I call it miscellaneous. The first one being valuing silence. So when you're with a group of people, it's very normal to just sit in silence and eat in silence and not talk, and not to fill the space, if you will, with noise and small talk. That's something I'm trying to get used to. Sometimes it's still, I feel a little bit uncomfortable, and I feel like somebody should be talking, but I try to just keep my mouth shut and enjoy the silence. So that's something I'm still getting used to, but I'm getting better at it. Finland has been voted the happiest country on earth, like 9th year in a row or something. But if you talk to Finns, they will be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody here drinks and are depressed. So, but I think in general, people are satisfied with their level of life, I guess, if that's how you say it. They are content with what they have. I think that makes you happy in a different sense than being like, you know, jolly and laughing and smiling all the time happy. I think people are just, yeah, they feel safe in their country. I feel very safe here. And they also have very good social security, so you don't really have to pay for medical expenses if you get really sick. But if you want fast service and arguably better service, you do have to pay for private insurance or a private doctor. But if you can't afford that, there is universal healthcare for all. And then lastly, another thing that I had to get used to here in Finland is that people value their privacy. That's not to say that people in the States don't value their privacy, it's just you don't have a lot of it. So valuing people's privacy is something that I had to work on being a content creator here. I think in the States, whenever something happens or you're making a video, you basically just take out your camera and start shooting. And after a year or so of making videos here on YouTube, I've come to learn that that's probably not the right way to do things here in Finland. And I would say I'm a lot more mindful in terms of who and what I film. And usually I do get permission before I film somebody's voice and or face. And nowadays I try not to include somebody's full face like on camera as much. I try to blur them out or like try to cut out the scenes. So that's something that I had to kind of rewire my brain into. Yeah, like I said, in the States, people just take out their phones and start recording when they feel like it. But here is a little bit different, and everybody's privacy should be valued and respected. So I think I've talked long enough for this video. If there are Finnish friends watching, let me know what I should try more of here in Finland. Somebody recommended I do an ice cream taste test. Now that it is summer, all the ice creams are out. I just don't know if I can stomach that, but let's see. Maybe I will do a short one or something. But yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to see me try or get more into, let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you want to know more about life in Finland, give me a follow, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Moi moi, bye!